Hello and welcome back to CinemaBurger, where I bring you movie reviews from a different perspective. So we are starting the 2020 movie catch-up with the live-action remake of Mulan. Now, originally it was going to be in theaters, but due to the COVID pandemic, it was pushed back a few times and then eventually was put on Disney Plus as part of the Premier Access, where you could pay $30 in addition to having the Disney Plus streaming service. But as long as you had the service, you would own the movie for $30. Now, about 3 months later, because it aired in September, it was available for everyone who had Disney Plus. So I wasn't going to pay $30 for a movie, especially after having worked in a movie theater for over 7 years. So after finally watching it, how does it hold up? Now I'm going to just mainly talk about it as a movie. I'm not going to try to compare it to the original, but I may make one or two comparisons here or there. So let's get started. We start as Mulan as a little kid. She's with her sister in her house. She happens to be chasing runaway chickens, and her mother says that's not for a lady to do. She has to be more respectful and bring honor to her family by marrying a man, basically, like in the original. But they also talk about everyone has chi, which is your energy and power and stuff like that. But if a woman uses it, it's considered bad. Only men should really use it, according to the movie. And then it cuts to years later where Mulan is 15 or 16, and a warring nation or group called the Raoran are coming to get revenge on the Emperor. The Emperor is played by Jet Li. Now, the head of this clan is played by Jason Scott Lee, who is, of course, Bruce Lee's son. And he's getting revenge because the Emperor killed his father many years ago. So as they're coming closer to the Chinese kingdom, there's also this witch who can shapeshift and stuff, and she's working with the warlord. So basically the warlord attacks the town, and the Emperor requests that people join the army. Of course, Mulan's father wants to join, but he's too old and sick. Mulan's father is played by Ma, who is in Rush Hour movies and many other movies. And for the most part, the acting in this movie is very robotic and not memorable. Everyone is kind of monotone and sounds like they're half asleep. For the most part, the only scene where people seem more lively and they change vocal tones and expressions is in the scene where Mulan's mother takes her to meet the matchmaker, and she, of course, messes up. And also the scene, Mulan's mother puts makeup and traditional Chinese attire on Mulan, and it's very vibrant in terms of the scene. The colors really pop out, and it's honestly one of the most visually interesting thing in the movie, which is kind of sad to say. But of course, Mulan fails with the matchmaker. She pretends to be a man to get into the army, but they already set up her character to be so strong because she embraced her chi, so she's a skilled warrior. She can already hold her own against most of the people in the Imperial Guard and things like that. So she's not that relatable, honestly. They barely have any chemistry with her and the captain of the guard, from the older movie. Donnie Yen plays the general of the army, and he's also kind of very robotic and stuff. This movie has good actors in it, but they're just not making good use of them. So one of the biggest problem is Mulan is already so strong and overpowered that her only real nemesis is a supernatural creature, in a way, because it's that witch. And it's not relatable. The main character has nothing to really overcome in this movie. A lot of the story is kind of rushed. like, let's say you've never seen the original Mulan. Like, the problem is with these live-action Disney remakes is they bet on the audience having seen the original, so they feel like they don't have to really set up as much story or make the characters like real enough. They just kind of go through the motions because they assume the audience has already seen the original and they just want to make it a live action version. But if it's technically a remake, it needs to be a well made and written movie on its own, and that's a problem with Mulan and many of the other live action Disney remakes, in my opinion. Maleficent is a good example of a good remake because it tells the story of Sleeping Beauty and the witch Maleficent from a different point of view, and it gives new insight into characters. Now, there is an interesting, somewhat scene where Mulan encounters the shape-shifting witch again, and the witch explains that she had powerful chi also, but she actually embraced it to the point where her family and village banished her. So she's kind of the opposite coin of what Mulan could be. And the witch says to Mulan, "Oh, you should just like not care about the army and the emperor anymore and like use your chi to the full potential." And they kind of make you think Mulan is gonna like turn evil for a second. Obviously, it's a Disney movie, so she would turn back, but even kind of going there for a second, but then immediately she renounces the witch and things like that. So your only real interesting plot point or something different that you would have done, you don't end up doing, so it just becomes another generic story. Now, I don't even remember if Mulan like destroys the witch, but she stops the warlord with the help of the emperor because the warlord kidnaps the emperor, and she defeats him easily by kicking an arrow at him that he shot, because the warlord catches arrows and can shoot them back at people because he has really good reflexes. But overall, I was extremely bored through this movie. I found myself like looking at my phone a lot. It just had no energy or spirit in it, honestly, and that's the problem. And it made me kind of wish it had Mushu, of course, and like the singing. Now, in terms of the live action Disney remakes, in terms of unimaginable and uninspired, my most hated live action Disney remake was Lion King, and Mulan is only slightly above that in terms of better, and that's not saying much. Now, like I said, the only interesting scene to me was the scene where Mulan is getting ready and then meets the matchmaker. But that's like a 5-minute scene, and it's really not worth a whole 2-hour movie to see that scene. So I would not recommend Mulan. Oh yeah, one more thing. At the end of the movie, Mulan is given an award for her bravery in saving the Emperor. And they have the original Mulan voice actress, Ming-Na Wan, introduce Mulan. So that was a nice cameo. I give it a 0.5 out of 5 burgers, honestly. Like, if you've seen the original Mulan, there's no reason to watch this because they've stripped it of everything that made the original interesting. So that's the first of 2020 movie catch up. We'll be back soon with something new. I'm Scott Berger, and I'll see you next time.